We live.
We're live. How's everyone doing? Happy Friday. We're back, baby. It's been a couple weeks. Last week was just miserable. Good to kind of be back in the chair. I gotta say, man, I'm exhausted. These Fridays used to be kind of my day off, and now they're turning into one of the busiest days of the week for me.
Yeah, well, welcome to my world.
I don't like this world. I don't enjoy that. I kind of enjoy my Fridays to myself. I kind of caused this to myself though. So Dylan, have you ever put a ton of work into something? I'm talking like over a day's work. Like we're talking maybe 2 days work, maybe like 20, 25, 30 hours into something only to have it fail. Like that big.
Oh yeah. I've had tons of those. I think anybody in a creative field has had lots of examples of like, I don't know, let's take an example from me earlier this year. I did this huge kick-ass jingle for, using the Sens theme augmented with all kinds of extra instrumentation for if Ryan Reynolds bought the Senators and then Ryan Reynolds didn't buy the Senators. That was an entire weekend, like probably 20 hours worth of work, maybe more.
Man. That sucks.
And so, yeah, that kind of sucked. It still went to air because they felt bad for me, but like it was kind of pointless.
Gotta love when they're like, I'll put it up anyways. Mr. Awesome Sauce. Yeah. No worries, man. I'm usually tired on Fridays. When I used to work a day job, this was the day where like just everything kind of relaxed and you're like, ugh. But now it just seems I'm so busy and kind of keeping the studio up and running. It just doesn't, it doesn't stop for Friday, man. I don't know what it is. So that's about your worst, eh? The Ryan Reynolds thing?
No. I mean, there's there are always worse.
Okay.
Than that. Like, I've there's projects I've worked on for like a week and then just, for whatever reason it fell through or the client schedule. I got a good one. Back in like May, I had a client in Kitchener whose name I won't say because they may actually end up buying.
Nice.
But like, I did 2 jingles for these guys because I said, I'm going to try a little experiment. I'm going to try because there's always revisions and I hate doing jingle revisions. It's a lengthy and annoying and backwards engineering process. But like, I did 2 jingles for these guys. And I'm like, pick one, right? It was a little experiment, a little psychological experiment because we know clients like control. But sometimes you just have to give them the illusion of control, like pick one. And sure enough, it worked. They were like, okay, we like jingle A. I'm like, okay, cool. Send them the bill. They never paid it. So I canceled the invoice because the system kept dispatching them like overdue notices over and over. I'm like, okay, well, now it's probably just getting annoying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Both of those jingles probably took a week and a half to throw together. Which sucks. But again, they may end up buying because they just after like 5 months of sitting doing nothing, they finally like I got a note from the rep saying, hey, they're a go. Like send them the invoice again. I'm like, okay.
Oh, so you did end up getting paid for it?
Not yet. Not yet. They looked at the invoice this morning. I saw the system tells me when they open the email, but they didn't fucking pay it. And I was like, come on, just do it.
So I started this background behind me is the new one. And I've been kind of not in a hurry because I had the other background, but I've always been waiting for these next few weeks because the guy that I edit podcasts for is on holidays, quote unquote. We spent like 3 weeks hammering out episodes. We did, I think, 3 episodes a week for 2 weeks just so he can go on a few weeks of vacation. And I was like, okay, so I've been looking forward to redoing my main setup because I now have another set of monitors for my other computer, but I don't have anywhere to put them on my desk. So I actually designed a second tier for my desk, and it actually lengthens the amount of room I have on my desk. So it's a 7-foot long desk, but I only made it like 28 inches deep. So this adds an extra foot to that. But it's on the second the second shelf, so the shelf kind of overhangs the back and it doesn't overhang the top of the desk or the front of the desk. It's quite nice. I gave it a little like Star Trek-y style shape so I can put the monitors on the sides. It's quite nice.
Nuno Cosmos, welcome.
Oh, hey, man. Hey, Rick on mic. Good to see you guys. Missed you last week. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, so I got some video done and I was like, why not? Like, I'm doing this big project from a background. Might as well have a little bit of fun, record it. And so I got to set up the camera, cut out the shape. I actually glued 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood together first, cut it out. And then I started like kind of ripping stuff apart, and I took video of me ripping stuff apart. And then I took video. I had stained the middle part, and I was on either side where the speakers were going to be. I put some foam pads, like it's 1/4 inch foam, just so the speakers, if they have a little bit of rumble, they're not going to be rattling. It's just it looked nice too, because this kind of a triangular style cutout to the sides. Very, very pretty. I did that this morning. And then I did the whole like setup, and I used gas piping for the stands for the thing. It looks gorgeous. It's amazing. It's fantastic. The problem is, and this is where we get into the shit part of it. Earlier this week, I went on a live stream with Sound Off Podcast, talking about integrating video into your podcast. And whenever I do a live stream, I have to set this to manual focus, this camera. You just have to. You can't have the little box around your face as you're moving around. It looks stupid, so you have to put it on manual. I didn't take it off manual focus for any of these shots, and most of these shots were from like 14 feet away because you needed to get the depth of the room. I haven't looked at the footage yet, but the manual focus was set to this length. That's the camera right there. Like I'm poking the camera. I can touch the camera from where I am. It's like 2 feet away from my face. So what do you think that footage is going to look like, Dylan?
I'm gonna say your nose is gonna look real big.
Furry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even want to look at it. And the desk, I even sent Dylan a picture of the desk. The desk is set up, but it's half of the footage is going to be with manual focus on. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to salvage that. Maybe I just tell the story and use pictures, or I can use some of the really fuzzy video and try to illustrate it with a story. I don't know what I'm going to do. All I know
it's a nice bridge, though. I mean, the bridge that you built.
Yeah. So I used gas pipe, and they're 8-inch gas pipe pieces of metal, and you can get screw-on bases for them. So it's actually really, really nice. It's got a nice lift. You've got a lot of nice room underneath there. It just sucks that manual focus, man. So about 30 hours.
I was gonna say I'm anal. The only thing I might change is add some kind of veneer on the outside of the bridge, just so it matches the bottom part of the desk. But it definitely.
I'm thinking I might actually get some wood and do that. I'm not too concerned about it right now. I just kind of wanted to get this together because every second that my desk is down, I'm losing work I could be doing, because that's my main work area, right? So it really sucks when it goes down. And I saw the moment today. I'm like, screw it. I literally like head down, ass up, got this done. Oh, I'm going to have to look at the footage this weekend, man. 30 hours. And I was going to have this video for Monday. I was going to work all weekend and have it all done up. Now I'm not so sure. So I do also have the SEV2 switch. I got a bunch of microphones in, actually, that I've got to do. There's some interesting stuff from Rode coming up. There's got a bunch of stuff. So it's not like I'm short of content, but I feel like I don't want to do a video right now. I don't want to be shooting a video right now. I just shot 30 hours, man. Anyways.
Yeah.
Dylan isn't triggered yet, so let's do this. What about 32-bit float? So I had a couple people mad in my mentions about 32-bit float with the Rode Wireless Pro. It's hard to say. Wireless Pro, Wireless Go 2, Wireless Me, they're all the same. But the Wireless Pro with 32-bit float, I said that it was one of the best integrations this year. Because to me, if to have something peak in the field is very possible when you're just out and about. So that's actually great. So you're not ruined with your audio. With the Wireless Go, they had a feature where you could have safety audio, something that was recorded, I think it was 10 dB lower. So that was a safety channel you could enable on the Wireless Go 2. This is just, you don't need it because you literally have the headroom to peak and just bring it down in post. And people got a little upset at me for saying that it was one of the best integrations. But what case, I'm sorry. The Rode NT1 5th gen is dumb having that with 32-bit float. It's a USB microphone with 32-bit float capabilities. Nobody needs that. Just set your bloody gain properly. The Zoom interface, the Zoom UAC, whatever that was, that doesn't need 32-bit float. And they don't even have gain control on it because you don't need gain control when you have 32-bit float. That's what Zoom wants you to know. This was one of the best. And anyways, you can't make anybody happy these days, with any videos. So are you triggered? Do you want to scream about 32-bit float? Nothing?
It's just, it's just one of those things that there's a lot of misinformation around about what it actually is and how useful it is or isn't. I have a problem with it because people use it as a crutch. I don't like things that people use as crutches. People use pop filters as crutches. Yeah. Although that's a little more reasonable because, I just had a client last week. Client came in, CEO of big clinic situation, and they had whistly S's. And they're like, well, next time you should coach them out of that. And I'm like, well, you can't coach people out of how they talk.
No,
you can.
That's how your mouth is built.
You can coach people on macro things like how to articulate a certain sentence or how to leave a pause after a certain word or like little things like that. But when it comes down to like how people make their F sound or their S sound, like I'm not a speech pathologist. That's not my job.
No freaking kidding, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what next year's big selling point is. I think we're running out of stuff. We've come so far. Rode has pushed the envelope so far since 2017. I still, again, remember a time when you couldn't get an interface with multi-track capabilities, like more than 2 channels, more than the left and right, without paying over $600. Now everything's multi-track. And then gain, and then all of these things just started rolling downhill since 2017. But where do you go from there? Once you have all the gain you need, you have multi-track, it's clean gain too. What else is there to sell the product other than cute features? I think video is going to be next year. I think we're going to see more video integration into interfaces. So multi-integration of HDMI, multi-port. I think that's going to be the next big wave. I think that's the only way it can go, right? Like, are there any other features we're needing on interfaces these days, Dylan? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I more interfaces that are better Swiss Army knives. Like, again, I was looking at, interfaces to replace the M-Box. I found a couple Focusrite models, but there aren't many options out there. Like, I need an interface that has a little bit of everything. I need MIDI. I need word clock. I need SPDIF. I need DI. I need mic input. Not many of them. Like maybe 1 or 2 of all of these things. Yeah. And there aren't a ton of interface. There's tons of interfaces that are an insane amount of channels, which I have. I've got a 32 input interface. What the hell else do I need than that? But things that have like 32 input interface that also has MIDI, that also has SPDIF. That's why originally I was looking at the Antelope Orion, because that's kind of like, hey, this is your base station for anything you need to make digital. It goes into this box. 64 in and out. Like that's amazing to me. Yeah. It's also $4,000.
Yeah, bring that down in cost a bit. I missed this one. Beresford went to a friend's house to learn how to build a PC. Sat unopened for months. Turns out PC specialist always assembles their PCs. Potential 3-hour adventure turned into a trivial half-hour. turned on first
I
time.
will say they're building a computer, and Aiden and I have both done this, but like it's adult Lego is all it
Yeah,
is.
it's
Especially
expensive
nowadays, like
Lego.
there's no. I remember the first computer I ever built was in like 2005. And you're fussing around with like dip jumpers on like, oh, is it
Oh,
master? Is it slave? Oh, make sure I plug it into the right port on this
oh,
massively stupid ribbon cable.
it was
Like
brutal.
building a computer used to. Oh yeah, remember risers? Remember when
Yeah.
you used to have to use like motherboard risers on the motherboard? That was annoying. You always have to have like a ton of those around.
I built my first one, and I think it was 99, and yeah, it was pretty bad.
But
Steve,
like now, what I was gonna say, sorry, is there is variance, right? Like water cooling or no water cooling.
yeah,
NVMe drives with heatsink, NVMe drives without heatsink. Like there's a lot of moving parts to building, especially if you're building a high-powered rig.
Yeah.
Well, like last year, the year before, I ended up spending like $6,000 on a new studio build because I'm like, this thing needs to hammer through freaking anything. And I need to make a machine that does that. And the build was not actually that long. The build, I was able to sort of,
it's a couple hours.
because I don't know. That was a little different though, because I had set it up as a test bench first to install all the software before ripping out just to basically see if it can handle everything. And then once I determined that, then I did the motherboard swap into the case. So for a while, I actually had two computers. I had the guts of one on my desk, and then I had my main one. Because when you have a machine for business, you can't have downtime.
You can't turn off. Yeah, you just can't turn it off.
So you gotta, like that was like I finished one night, or I finished work one day. I logged off for the day. I had already had the computer, all the software installed and pre-configured. I already did that like just over the previous weeks, and then it was just like one night back up and running, no downtime at all.
Yeah.
And which can be kind of stressful at the same time. But yeah.
I found like when I kind of came to a crossroads and I needed a machine that could do a little bit more, all this. And then I looked at the MacBook or the Mac Mini. It's like, it's ridiculous how much it does. It doesn't even stutter. It doesn't die. I don't lose product. I've had a wonderful time with that Mac, and it crushes video like nobody's job. So my computer is a really expensive gaming computer that I watch YouTube videos on now. Oh, and I do edit podcasts on it because the Isotope RX6 is not compatible with the new M2 processors from Apple.
Get your damn thing upgraded. You're way behind.
I was talking to Tyler, who's for Minds of Madness, and he uses the RX Advanced. He's got
honestly, Isotope. I'm gonna call Isotope out right now. Isotope, you gotta start getting on the AI bandwagon. There are companies like Descript out there that are going to take your audience away because you guys are still in this linear mechanical mindset.
I think they're going to. I think they're going to, because there's a few AI programs that are really interesting. Descript is just one of them. I know Tyler uses them all. But he's actually going to be getting the RX 10 Advanced, or RX whatever Advanced it is. He's like, well, this is like my way of like, investing in you since you're doing all the work. And I don't want to get it because it's hard to justify $1,300 for one podcast, even though it pays really well. It's one podcast. So I'm like, I was waiting to see if I got more work and what would happen. Really hard. And then he's like, nah, we'll probably just get you a license. Don't worry about it. I'm like, all right. So that's why. Steve, someone will put real-time profanity filters into interfaces where it puts a beep in. I think
funny story about that. I got a funny story about that.
I think we're going to have AI integration into interfaces at some point. Now, remember, this is going to be something that would require a companion app. But imagine a Descript companion app for an interface. Imagine somehow being able to work like that, and plausibly you'd probably have a delay on it. You would have to have like a radio station would have a delay, and as soon as it hears that or sees that word, it would just beep. It's actually very plausible, And I'm surprised radio stations haven't gone. I guess AI is a little too young for that kind of crap, right?
Honestly, like, so I got a story about this that happened this week. So, one of the stations in our little cluster is a talk format station. It's a news talk, and sports, I guess, talk sports. But we run one show during the day. It's usually about an hour long. And it's a call-in show, right? It's a talk show. So we have like a current affairs type show with interviews, and then immediately after, like a kind of a response show, where it's like, hey, you want to chime in on what just happened or what we just talked about or what's pertinent. And so we had a fill-in host this week. Board op, the same person.
Oh, wow.
So there's no excuse for this to happen. Board op is the same person. It always is. But the fill-in host, obviously not very educated on typical. So number one, we don't run this show with a program delay, which is probably going to change soon.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I think there's a number of reasons that came up as to why they decided to sort of ditch that usage. But so this guy calls in, he's talking about COVID, and already as soon as anyone's talking about COVID, and I'm listening to the show, I'm just like, what are we gonna do? Where's this going?
Yeah.
And he starts going on about how a lot of the general public's being afraid of the sniffles, as he said, was the news, and the media was fear porning everyone, and I'm like, oh no. and nobody shut this guy down.
Yeah.
Normally on a talk show, somebody goes in that direction, especially with Canada's CBSC laws and Clause 9.
Yeah.
And talking about porn on the radio.
Yeah.
That's shut it down. You end the call. It's over. Block the number. Over. But this guy had never been on the radio before.
Oh man.
I was like, oh no. So yeah, an AI profanity filter or an AI Clause 9 filter in the case of Canada would be very useful.
I think something like that would be. Yeah, I think it would be very expensive for radio stations to be able to put in, because radio stations love holding on to their old gear. Like, they love it. They do not like to.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've worked for the radio stations that you're using the 40-year-old.
I will be honest. Like, we have a lot of very state-of-the-art tech in our setups, but certainly, especially smaller clusters, smaller stations, little one-offs, one-off, tend to have a lot of old stuff.
Yeah, sorry, your video went out and came back on, and it was resized and everything. That was weird. So I had to move you around a bit there, man.
Is it Google knocking me out?
Evanov is pretty bad. Even like some of the smaller stations, smaller markets. Anyways, we're getting behind here. Danny Brown podcast. Happy Friday, brother. Disagree with AI. Sorry, yes, it can help, but some tools are too aggressive. You can really tell when someone has left to remove filler words as default. Sounds like Max Headroom.
Well, so I think what we're talking about is obviously contingent on the technology being good. There are certainly some sketchy AI tools. In fact, hey, you want to really trip up Descript Studio Sound? Feed in studio quality audio.
Yeah, and
it looks for stuff that isn't there. It really does bad things to the audio. So I think there are good examples of AI being used. In fact, iZotope has rolled out a little bit of, I would actually qualify this as machine learning rather than AI, but like their repair assistant, their mastering assistant, their mix assistant. These are sort of on the fringe of AI. Again, they're technically not AI, they're machine learning, but close enough. And they're quite good. They can actually be quite helpful in kind of figuring out a starting point. As a human, you still have to intervene and get that spit and polish on it. But I'm not entirely against AI. I'm a little nervous about what it means for some industries and some professions. You can't produce a commercial worth a hell.
No.
So I'm not really threatened by it.
Like, I know a very, very well-off podcast that I work for that uses it sparingly, but it's still being used. It's still part of the production process. And how heavy the hammer is all depends on how horrible the audio is. So, I mean, is it going to be your only tool? No. I think it's way too far away from that. But I think it's still a versatile tool that can be utilized by a lot of people. And I think if you write something off because it can't do everything for you, I think you kind of miss the boat on a lot of things. Like I've had audio that couldn't be fixed by certain tools in Isotope RX. Doesn't mean the tools are bad. It just means that it couldn't fix that.
Does a cabinet maker look for one $50,000 saw that's going to do everything that he possibly wants? No, he's got a trunk full of saws.
Yeah, lots of
and
saws.
different drills and hammers and our industry is no different. I mean, I look at my work machine here and the amount of odds and ends I have installed to help me with various things between FabFilter stuff, isotope stuff, Waves stuff, even some weird niche plugins, Native Instruments. Like there's a tool for everything, and I certainly don't fall into the one size fits all. As nice as it would be, don't get me wrong.
No,
if one tool could just do everything.
I mean, it's
that's why. Like back when
even with tools like Deep Breath, you're still doing the manual work, right? Like there's no one button approach to this stuff. So AI can't do it. AI can't do it yet.
And what I would say too is this: if you are, particularly if you are a podcaster or a producer for a podcast, and your fix for audio is to use AI or 32-bit float, or your fix is to use, again, like use things as crutches. The guys out there that know what they're doing and that are kicking your ass because none of those tools will beat a person who really knows how to use the tools like hands-on.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can use a compressor tool in Descript. I guarantee 10 times out of 10, I will do a better job of compressing a vocal than Descript will.
Absolutely.
And I am who you're competing against as a producer. So keep that in mind. You're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage if you opt not to learn the tools.
Yep, absolutely. Bangs Naughty Bits. Welcome to the dystopian future of Canada. A warning for all Americans. Oh yeah, we're a little more tight on our regulations for certain things. Not in a horrendous way. I don't think it really impacts us whatsoever. We don't have really a lot of issues with it. Every once in a while, a jock gets fired for saying something stupid that pisses people off, but that's no different from anywhere else. We don't have the Howard Sterns in Canada. We have pretty mild radio up here, really mild media, if you will. Danny Brown, Mr. Awesome Sauce, an audio interface or microphone with real-time speech enhancement, similar to an Adobe Enhance, would be a nice gimmick for the future. Although Dylan would hate it because it's a crutch, I'm sure. Yeah, you know what? But that's a problem with a lot of those one-button approaches. Like the real-time enhance or anything like that is... And I always... this goes back...
The way I look at it is... So let's look at the MV7 for a hot second, right? So the MV7 has auto gain functionality. It has... certain built-in EQ parameters to darken or brighten a voice. And I'm against those. In fact, I actually just recommended a client of ours purchase it who wants to do a live cut-in on the radio and needs something in his hands and at his office that's going to work. That's just going to work. And that we don't have to babysit him remotely trying to troubleshoot. It's like, no, plug it in, launch the program, boom, done. And so I do think that there is a place for AI tools, and certainly as a producer, AI, again, Studio Sound and Descript in particular, has saved my skin many a times. And so, I'm not against AI. Again, I'm just against using AI and one-button approaches like a crutch.
Yeah. But here's an interesting perspective. I got a comment on a video today, and somebody asked me, it was on the NT1, and somebody asked me, how did you make that mic sound so good? What do you mean? He's like, I plugged it in and it sounds like trash. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, my voice is all over the place. There's reverb. I'm like, well, I have treatment in my studio. That's like the bar. You need to have treatment. There's no workaround for this, people. But no, mine should sound just as good. No, you don't just buy a mic and you're good. You have to do the other things.
Have you heard an SM7 just plugged into an interface?
It sounds
by
like
itself?
trash, and
It's so muddy. You've got to pull the qual again. It's kind of like, again, I'll go back to the cabinet making analogy because it's a little more obvious. But like when you build a cabinet, do you just cut up a bunch of 3/4 inch pine and put a knob on it and say go? No, you sand down. You round out some corners. There's some spit and polish, some TLC. And recording a good voiceover or recording a good anything, even from a filmmaking standpoint, like you got to take a picture. Yeah, you can use the P feature on the camera, but you'll probably get a way better shot if you use M and learn what the shutter and aperture do.
Yeah.
Like just any trade, any artistic thing, it's cooking, right? Cooking is no different.
Yeah.
You can have an amazing dish and it's all about the little details that really make something pop. And so, yeah, I think there's a couple schools of thought. Depends exactly what the quality is that you need to get
Yeah,
done.
and like Danny says, do you feel though that AI is stopping podcasters learning about post-production? No. You know what's stopping podcasters from learning about post-production? Podcasters not wanting to do post-production. And I think that the biggest thing that, like, when we started getting enhancements on interfaces like with the Rodecaster Pro coming out with the big bottom, the Aural Exciter, people just like slam it on, good to go, ship it out the door. And I've worked with the audio because every once in a while, Minds of Madness will do a crossover episode with another podcaster. And they're usually big names that he's doing crossovers with. And he sends me the audio unworked. And usually it's somebody with the Rodecaster Pro 2 that has just slammed everything on. And I'm de-essing their Aural Exciter. I'm trying to get rid of the noise from their preamps because they bought an SM7B with it and cranked the gain all the way up and then boosted it in post before they sent it to me. So it's basically sounds like you're listening to a record player with a bad needle, and nobody understands the concepts of getting decent audio, and they don't want to. This is the one button approach they have. So if you don't want to learn about,
because we keep saying the one button approach. So let me clarify something real quick. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there that and I've talked to guys about it in the podcast, in the professional, like that work for a podcasting company. And they're like, well, it's too much. I don't have time, right? I don't have time. It takes too long. And so what I will say is this, I use a one button approach. A lot of the times during my day. I have a preset for this SM7, which I use for like 99% of my voicing. Yeah. And I have a preset in Adobe called VO 1.4. And whenever I record anything with this SM7, the gain knob doesn't get touched because it's where it needs to be. I'm the only person that ever speaks into this mic, and I know how loud I am. So the preamp is set just fine. And then I put that VO 1.4 and it immediately sounds magical. One button, hit apply, renders the file, send it out. It sounds the same every time. Did I have to spend like an hour and a half sculpting that profile? Yes. Presets and templates. Presets and templates will make your post-production journey a hell of a lot less of a pain in the arse.
But here's the thing. So it's the same people, and I'm going to be calling podcasters out on this. It's the same people that go to hire an editor the second week doing their podcast and wonder why it costs so much. It's the same people that wonder why you don't want to edit down their 2 hours, take out all of the ums. They want to get that dead space out, make me sound like I'm on an SM7B when the microphone's on the other side of the room. There's some people that just have no interest in learning. And those are the people that are going to be drawn to AI. If you want good audio, and once again, I go back to when we're having those crossovers and you listen to this audio coming from these big podcasters, then you listen to Tyler's audio, and Tyler's audio is going through a $5,000 preamp with a U87 AI. It sounds fantastic. It just sounds fantastic. And again, he has his presets that he runs. He puts it through and he sends it to me, and it just sounds good. There's no issues with it whatsoever. So, you can take the short road, and everyone knows that the short road's there. AI is not. Even though people are trying to hype it as that, anybody with a brain can understand that AI is not going to be that powerful anytime soon. That,
Yeah, well,
I
and
guess I
that's the
should
key.
knock
Is
on wood.
eventually, I mean, we've seen just this year how far AI has come, and it's really only jumped off the ground this year, and already it's everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah.
ChatGPT wasn't that long ago. But I think at the end of the day, as not even a content creator, but an entrepreneur, you will not succeed in
No.
achieving excellence as an entrepreneur if you are not willing to learn
Yep.
to run any kind of business, including a podcast, because a podcast is a business. It should be. You're not going to achieve any sense of excellence. You're not going to be competitive because again, to your point about using AI, I'm not using AI.
No.
And so if I'm working for 6 podcasts and I'm using my knowledge and skills on finessing audio, which is quite extensive at this point, and you're just using AI and you're doing your 6 podcasts, my 6 podcasts are going to sound better.
They are.
And is that necessarily and you and I've talked about this, Aiden, before, the idea that the sound quality of your podcast isn't as important as the quality of the content.
No.
And so there is a lot of truth to that. You got to have a shitty sounding podcast that as long as you're a good writer. But at the end of the day, I hate that expression and I keep using it. But, bottom line, another expression I hate, if you're going up against me and I've got well-written podcasts that sound good and you've got well-written podcasts that sound bad or that sound sort of good, I win. My podcast wins.
Yeah. Well, and this is how businesses are created. This is how podcast editing companies are created, is just this in general. Like the ability to just do all the right things, and there you go. Rick on Mike, do people not know that they can save presets? Actually, you know what, Rick? Here's a great tip that I try to give as many people that ask me about it. Pay a producer to create some presets for you. You can literally go to a producer, hand him $200, and he'll set presets for you. He'll take the next couple hours. Yeah, exactly. $200. Here's your presets. What program are you using? Okay, these are the numbers you want to put in on this, and this. Here's $200.
Yeah,
you never have to worry about it again.
I'll put that offer right on the table now. People, email me your V. I will make presets for you. I will process your voice with those presets so you can hear how it sounds. And if you like it, you pay me $200, you get the presets.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good sales pitch, man. I like that. Anko, but if you're big enough, seems like that paying somebody for getting a good setup will pay off in less editing time. I get that they don't want to do it, but just get someone to do it. Here's the trade-off, though, and it's not about getting big enough that you don't have to do it. For example, a lot of people, when they ask YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers respond with, the first thing they would get rid of is editing. The problem, and this is something I ran into when I was starting to edit podcasts as well, is people that are big got big because of the way they did it. So they don't want to let go and just give it to somebody else that's going to do it the way they do it. It's really hard to let go of your baby. The last thing I would source out would be my editing. The last thing, because I like the way I do it. I've seen the way other people do it. It's too slow. It's too bland. I like the way I do it. So it's not as easy as just like, oh, that's the first thing out the door. The podcaster I'm with, Minds of Madness, went through several editors that didn't even last a week before him and I started talking. And that's the thing about just getting somebody to do it, is you need it done the way you do it. Because if you're big enough, you're reliant on the sound, the pace, all of the little things that you've made your crowd used to. It's not just a matter of that. And yeah, you know what? I mean, a lot of people would love to take like that time suck off their hands, but man, oh man, it's hard when that's your money. That's the thing that brings the bread home, and you're just going to throw it somebody else like, here, edit this for me. It's so not that. It is so not that. And yeah, I don't know, man. Seeing the way they go about it and how like a lot of these top players do this stuff, the first thing they usually get rid of is writing. That's the what would like if you could outsource one thing, what would it be, Dylan? Like writing is easy for me.
Yeah. I would probably. Well, then here's the thing, right? Is when you get big enough, and somebody just Anko just kind of alluded to this. When you get big enough, you have more things to do than there are hours in the day, and so you really don't have a choice but to start outsourcing some stuff. And there's a lot of podcasters and YouTubers alike that have a problem with that, because to outsource elements of the process is to kind of surrender a certain amount of control.
Yo, it's 100% control.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that have trouble with that, and I think sometimes and maybe I'm spilling too much tea right now, but the people will be like, well, I don't want to do it because it's expensive. It's like, no, you don't want to do it because you want to be as hands-on, and you want to be able to say that this is yours and that you did it by yourself. And there's definitely an ego component sometimes, not all the time, but it's certainly something I've had conversations with. And you can tell when you hit a nerve, because they go, wow, what are you talking? They get all up in their face. I'm like, yeah, okay, I hit a nerve. Yep.
Yeah. Took me a while to appreciate editing. Danny, yeah, you know what? At first, a lot of people view it as a chore, as something that just has to be done. It's just cuts. You just throw it together and you push it out. But as you develop in editing, both video and audio, you realize the art form behind it. The art form of, it's not just editing, it's pacing. Pacing is an art form. It's not just getting the mouth clicks out and the mouse clicks out. It's so much more. It's creating dialogue. It's putting music in. It's editing the music to make sure it ends at the right time. There's so much around it. It's literally such an art form that to just ship that out the door is almost impossible. But when you pay somebody for a good setup, and this is what Anko was saying, getting a preset, you don't have to be big to pay for a preset. Everyone's got $200. Well, okay, not everyone has $200, but save up. Get $200 and get a professional to set up stuff for you. You don't need an editor. You just need somebody to make you sound good. There you go. If you just want to sit in a bare room, in a concrete room with a microphone, suffer the consequences, or go get some treatment for your walls. Maybe put up some blankets. Do anything. Put up a blanket fort. There's so many little things that you just end up having to do on a day-to-day basis that you don't need to go pay somebody for. So
and it's a very simple concept. If you don't have the time, you have the money, and if you don't have the money, you have the time. And if you have neither of those things, you're spending not enough of your time making money. And that. So I am always of the teach them to fish, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have the time, time to learn how to fish, I'll give you the fish, but you got to pay me.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I don't blame people looking for the one-button approach to a lot of things and finding that, like, Rode has done a pretty damn good job with their effects and stuff like that. But even then, there's still a bit of a learning curve you should go through and how to use them. I never turn Aural Exciter on when I'm recording because I'm a sibilant fella. And don't your ears bleed when you hear yourself talking with the Aural Exciter on? Like, how do you not notice that? How do you not notice how sibilant you are? Oh, it's because you don't understand what's happening. Oh, okay, there it is. And it's just, you still have to educate yourself around the one-button approach. Or, again, pay somebody to do it, which I love. The first time I edited a podcast, I think you remember this, Two Girls, One Mic. Do you remember me editing for them? They started to blow up overnight because it was two girls talking porn. I don't think I can actually say that on a live stream. Two girls talking about corn, and they would interview corn stars. And it was always pretty graphic, pretty brutal. It was fun, horrible audio. The girls had okay audio. The actors, we'll call them, had horrendous. It was usually a guy leaning into his laptop and yelling at it. That was usually the audio I was dealing with for that. And I was charging $90 an episode because I just wanted to get some work. Some of the episodes I was taking 8 hours to do. I was not making enough money whatsoever. And I was like, and they fired me because I cost too much. They literally they're like, we got somebody that'll do it cheaper. I'm like, okay. Good luck with that.
Have fun with that.
And
Like I love handing off projects like that are honestly just make work projects. They're like, well, you just lost a customer. I'm like, thank God.
yeah, well, and the funny thing is, they came back 2 weeks later with one of their microphones stopped working halfway through, and it switched over to the laptop microphone. So they're like, "Can you make it sound like there's no difference?"
Oh, I
And I'm like,
remember that. I remember you telling me that. And
and
I
I'm
was
like,
ah, karma.
they must have been sitting like 5 feet away from their laptop. Like their laptop must have been like quite a ways away from them. And I'm like, oh God, I did my best with it. But I mean, there's only so much you can do with really bad audio.
Yeah.
Oh man, those were horrible days. Fish them to teach, right, Liberty Dude? Anyways, 5:54, brother. I'm feeling beat. I'm feeling exhausted. I think I'm
feel
gonna
you.
dip out. Thank you to everybody that showed up, even though we're not showing up on a weekly basis now because we're unreliable. But we'll try to be a little bit better. Oh, I do have, by the way, Dylan, I'll share this with the class. I've got a couple ribbon mics. I'm not going to say who. They're gorgeous little mics. What do you want to do with them?
Way to just put me on the spot. I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah,
There's
I think
again. I got a resonator guitar over there that really
Okay.
probably would like to.
that would a lot of those
have some
high
fun.
frequencies off the resonator would probably be nicely shaped.
Mellowed out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd probably be good. You know what? I think I'm going to utilize you for that aspect of this and kind of play with these a little bit. I think that's a good idea. Okay, awesome. Life happens. We are here for you when you guys are. I appreciate that. Give one away to the first person to use Dylan template. free. You know what? Yeah, I would if it wasn't. One of these mics goes to me. One mic goes to Dylan. It's kind of the deal here. And they have to sit in the locker because we have to at times pull them back out of the locker. I haven't really broached the conversation of giveaways yet. I've done a couple. I've also received a lot of backlash for doing giveaways because people just can't seem to play nice. And people get pretty bitter when they lose. Even the road backpack giveaway there was a lot of bitterness slung at me over that. And it's like,
Oh, people grow
it's a
up.
backpack.
Grow
and,
up.
oh, you fixed it. No, I really didn't. I really didn't. Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of that crap. So I'm going to try to find a way to do giveaways where they're not as contentious and people don't. There's probably going to be sore asses all the time. Like people are going to be butthurt all the time about that stuff. But is it worth my time at the moment? Not really. I don't need to deal with that crap right now. And yeah, a few bad eggs can literally spoil the pie, man. It's frustrating. People do suck, Danny Brown. People do suck.
Yep.
Anyways, have yourself a great week. We're getting out of here. We'll see you next week. Cheers and have a good one.
Cheers.